Hi everyone, my name is Anita Ladhani. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and an energy practitioner. So those of us that have exes in our lives, and we have to continue to interact with them, how do you deal with that? So I have a lot of conversations around this with people, who are saying, I'm just frustrated, like I don't want to have to speak to my ex, but I have to talk to him because usually it's because you have kids together. So you have to deal with an ex, spouse, whether it's a ex-wife or an ex-husband, it doesn't matter. And, these exes tend to be a real pain in the butt, right? They make our lives very difficult and really push our buttons. And it's not easy. I'm on pretty good terms with my ex now, but it wasn't always that way. And so what I want to say to those of you who are dealing with exes is that your exes are actually your biggest teachers in your life, okay? I can just hear a lot of you jumping off going, oh my God, don't tell me I have to pray for my ex and I should forgive him or her. Yeah, actually you should pray for your ex because again, sure, your ex is being a pain right now. Your ex is doing everything to make your life miserable. Your ex is, really causing you a lot of stress and a lot of heartache. Your ex is taking you back to court. Your ex is, poisoning your kids. Your ex is just making life difficult. And in spite of that, I will tell you that your ex is actually doing you a favor. Your ex is providing you opportunities so that you can learn. You can learn lessons that you were supposed to learn, whatever those lessons are. Now, for me, those lessons were about figuring out who I was and standing in my own truth. Those lessons were about forgiveness. Those lessons were about, realizing that, I had, a part to play in my relationship failing, in my marriage failing, as much as my ex did. And it was about growing up, and it was about taking responsibility, and it was about not just getting caught up in the blame game. Forgiveness is such a huge part of the spiritual practice, and of course gratitude is the foundation as far as I'm concerned, but forgiveness is right there with it. If you are not willing or able to forgive someone and you hold on to that resentment, the anger, the frustration, the rejection that you felt, you hold on to that negative, emotions, well, that does nothing for your spiritual journey. If anything, what holding on to that and not forgiving is holding on to a acid, and then you wonder why the container is falling apart, because the acid that you're holding on to, this anger, this hatred, this frustration, this resentment, is just literally eating you up, destroying you from the inside out. Versus if you're able to forgive and let go, you are actually doing yourself a favor. Forgiveness has nothing to do with the actions of the other person. You are not condoning the actions of someone else when you're forgiving them. You're not saying, forgiveness is not about saying, it's okay that you did that to me. Absolutely not. That's not what forgiveness is ever about. Forgiveness is not about okaying what the other person did. Forgiveness is about saying, in spite of what you did, I'm moving on. I'm not going to let that, what you did to me, keep me trapped in this state. So in forgiving the other person, you're actually freeing yourself. You're not freeing the other person, you're freeing yourself, because when you forgive, you allow yourself permission to let go and move on. What are the stories that you're telling yourself? What are the stories that define your life? What are the stories that make up who you are? And in identifying those, you'll realize forgiving someone or not forgiving someone is actually a big story that many of us have. It'd be so easy, to be angry and mad at my ex-husband. It would be so easy to hate him and hold him responsible for the poor me of whatever, I want to tell myself. But he had nothing to do. I mean, on a superficial, on a one level, yeah, he absolutely did. But on an energetic level, I was where I was. He was where he was. He did the best he could, and I did the best I could. And, now it's like you just, it is what it is. You forgive and you move on. But I can just hear you saying, well, my ex continues to stalk me, and my ex continues to, call me and irritate me and, frustrate me and make my life difficult. Sure, if your ex is continuing to do that, you need to work on creating boundaries. You need to work on, you may have to go to the law and get a restraining order. You may have to take him back to court. You may have, or her back to court. You may have to just, go through and set up, communication if you're divorced parents through this app that, is being monitored. You may have to do some concrete things to establish boundaries. But that's just part of your journey. You can't do anything about it except make the best of the situation. So make the best of the situation, step up and empower yourself so that you are creating boundaries for yourself, so that somebody else, an ex, is not able to walk all over you. They're not able to just, abuse your kindness, and that takes some time. This is not something that, it just happens overnight. Figure out what your rights are, figure out, what you're able to do. But eventually just understand something. This too shall pass, okay? I remember my kids were 2 and 5.5 when I got split up. They're 17 and 20. Time passed. I look back and it blows my mind that, these boys who were literally like I was carrying in my arms, when I got divorced, are now, they carry me on their arms and their shoulders. They're both taller than me, and life goes on. And it seems like such a long time ago that they were babies, and at that, when I was in the middle of that, it felt like, oh my God, how am I going to get through and raise these boys, and on my own? And sure, of course I had family support, but it was this, it seems like such an overwhelming task. But this too shall pass. Time waits for no one. Time is going to just happen. So show up, take advantage, do the best you can, establish boundaries, and really just, as much as you can, let go of resentment, let go of animosity, let go of, things that were said or done. I mean, no one's perfect. I'm sure, I have said, I know I have said and done things to people, and not just my ex, to some of my closest, loved ones that I wish I hadn't. But I did, and they could have chosen to just hold that against me, or they chose to forgive me. I can sit here and choose to blame myself and be upset with myself, or I can choose to forgive myself and move on. And, forgiveness is something that I think is something that we need to start with ourselves, because we don't give ourselves a break. Brene Brown, I've been watching a lot of Brene Brown, and I posted some of her videos. She says, when there's a sign up on one of her work tables that says, speak to yourself as if you would speak to someone you loved, right? Because we are so kind and nurturing to people we love, but we are so harsh with our own selves. We don't give ourselves a break. So, when you find yourself, with this negative self-talk, stop and ask yourself, would I speak to my loved ones that way? If my best friend came to me, if my son came to me, my daughter came to me, someone that I really care for came to me and would beating themselves up, what advice would I give them? Would I give them would I speak to them the same way that I'm speaking to myself? And hopefully that will help you to pause and speak to yourself kindly. Anyways, I hope this was helpful. Love and light. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.